The air in Gettysburg hangs heavy. It is thick with the weight of history, a history written in blood, gunpowder. As dusk settles over the rolling fields and granite monuments, a different kind of quiet descends. It is not a peaceful silence. It is a watchful one, filled with the echoes of a past that refuses to die. Here, on the southern end of the battlefield, lies the Slyder Farm, stone house, weathered barn, standing as silent witnesses to the carnage of July 1863. The land seems to hold its breath between the living and the spectral. This is not a place for the faint of heart. The stories that cling to the Slyder Farm, like morning mist to Weikert Run, are not mere fables. Born from the raw, visceral trauma of war, the ground feels saturated with the emotions of that terrible summer: fear, courage, agony, loss. Visitors often speak of an oppressive atmosphere, a sense of being watched by unseen eyes. Wind through bullet-scarred trees carries either a mournful sigh or a whispered command. John Slyder was a farmer, not a soldier. He and his wife Catherine had built a life on this 150-acre plot of land. They raised their children, tended their livestock, and worked the soil. Their stone farmhouse, built to last, was a symbol of their hard-won prosperity. But in the summer of 1863, their world was torn apart. The great armies converged on Gettysburg, and the Slyder Farm found itself directly in the path of the storm. It was situated on the southern flank of the Union line, a position that would soon become critically important and incredibly dangerous. As the battle raged on its second day, July 2nd, the farm became a battleground. Confederate sharpshooters from Alabama and from Texas. They used the sturdy stone walls of the farmhouse for cover and the large barn for cover, picking off Union soldiers defending the heights. The Slyders' peaceful homestead was transformed into a sniper's nest. The fields where their cattle grazed became a no-man's land, littered with the dead and dying. The Union Army fought back fiercely. Artillery shells rained down, striking the barn and the house. Bullets peppered the stone and the wood, leaving scars that are still visible today. Gettysburg is America's most haunted town for one simple, brutal reason: the sheer scale of human suffering that occurred here. Over 3 days in July 1863, more than 51,000 men became casualties. Killed, wounded, captured, went missing. This was not a distant, anonymous conflict. It was intimate, hand-to-hand combat. Men looked into the eyes of their enemies as they fought in fields, orchards, town streets. The entire 2,400-acre battlefield became a vast open-air graveyard, soaked in the agony and terror of a nation tearing itself apart. The aftermath of the battle was almost as horrific as the fighting itself. The small town of Gettysburg, with a population of just 2,400, was suddenly faced with caring for over 20,000 wounded soldiers. Every church, school, public building, private homes like the Slyders were commandeered. The sights, sounds, smells. Surgeons performed countless amputations, creating piles of severed limbs outside hospital windows. The air was thick with the stench of death and disease. For weeks, the town was a landscape of hell. The ghost stories of the Slyder Farm are as rugged and persistent as the stone walls of the house itself. They are grounded in unsettling personal experiences. Many tales focus on the Confederate sharpshooters who used the farm as their fortress. Visitors and park rangers have reported seeing fleeting figures in ragged grey uniforms or butternut uniforms darting between the barn and the house. Seen from the corner of the eye, they vanish the moment you look, leaving a lingering sense of unease. One frequently reported phenomenon is auditory. People near the farmstead, especially at dawn or dusk, claim to hear impossible sounds. The sharp crack of a single rifle shot echoing from the barn is a common account. Others hear muffled voices with a southern drawl seeming to come from the stone walls. Not loud battle noise, but faint disembodied whispers like fragments of another time. A chilling account: a visitor near the farm spring saw 2 men sitting on the ground, at first thought reenactors. As he approached, the figures faded away. He was left staring at an empty patch of grass with their faces burned into his memory. What makes the hauntings at Slyder Farm so unnerving is their subtlety. There are no ghouls jumping from closets or rattling chains in the attic. The phenomena are understated, woven into the very fabric of the location. It is the feeling, more than any specific event, that leaves a lasting impression. Many who walk the path from the farm toward the round tops describe a sudden, inexplicable drop in temperature, even on a warm day. This is often accompanied by a profound sense of sadness, a wave of melancholy that seems to rise from the ground itself. The physical evidence of the battle adds a layer of stark reality to the ghost stories. The Slyder Farm is not a pristine historical reconstruction, it is a survivor. You can run your fingers over the pockmarks left by mini balls on the stone walls of the house. These are not props, they are tangible connections to the violence that took place here. When someone reports seeing the ghostly figure of a sharpshooter peering from a window, it is all the more believable because you can see the very spot where a real sharpshooter would have stood, fighting for his life. Even today, people walking their dogs through the area report that their animals will sometimes stop dead, hackles raised, and stare intently at an empty spot near the stone walls, refusing to go any further. It is as if they can sense a presence that remains invisible to human eyes. This natural phenomenon creates the perfect canvas for the imagination. Is that a column of mist rising from the creek, or is it the spectral form of a soldier? The fascination with the ghosts of Gettysburg and places like the Slyder Farm runs deeper than a simple love for a good scare. It is rooted in a fundamental human need to connect with the past. These stories are a form of living history, a way to grasp the immense human cost of the Civil War on a personal, emotional level. Reading that 51,000 men were casualties is an abstract statistic. Hearing a story about the ghost of a single lonely Texan soldier, forever trapped on a farm far from home, makes that statistic real. It gives a face to the faceless numbers. These ghost stories also serve as a powerful form of remembrance. The monuments and plaques at Gettysburg tell the official story of the battle. The strategies, the unit movements, the names of generals, but the ghost stories tell the unofficial story, the one whispered from generation to generation. They preserve the memory of the common soldier, the fear-stricken civilian, and the raw, unvarnished horror of the conflict. They ensure that the emotional truth of Gettysburg is not forgotten, even as the events themselves recede further into the past. The ghosts are the keepers of the battlefield's soul. Ultimately, the ghosts of Slyder Farm endure because the story of Gettysburg endures. The lingering spirits, whether they are real or imagined, force us to confront the profound sacrifice made on this ground. As long as people walk these fields and feel that chill run down their spine, the ghosts of Gettysburg will continue to tell their silent, sorrowful tale.